Her take, my favorite show, is back to humiliate themselves. On the Smithsonian exhibit cleanup, Jillian Michaels already went on CNN and lodged a complaint about the Smithsonian exhibits only saying that white people are bad. Her complaint was that the exhibits complained about American imperialism. And her two examples were a gay flag and a trans exhibit. So this is a continuation of Jillian Michaels having a mental breakdown on CNN, where she came off very poorly and regurgitated white supremacist talking points. I'm not even kidding. Again, go watch my video on that, where she's saying the David Duke statistic, where only 2% of white people owned slaves during America's slavery period. But anyway, we can follow up and watch what they said on her take.
Expansion, and then we do have the white culture card, which, guys, we're going to circle back to the white culture card at the very end of the segment. But Jillian, please go ahead, give us.
Well, you know what? I want you to do the tunnels because when we get to the white culture card and some of these other installations that really do, in my opinion, exhibit a very biased, partisan take on history, and it is not all about slavery. So I don't want to, that's going to take us off the rails.
Okay.
I'm chomping at the bit. I really want to hear what all of you have to say.
Can we actually focus on that and then get back to the tunnels in the end?
You sure?
Yes,
I'll be okay
because
with that, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So I get asked to do Abby Phillips, which I'm sure, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 2 days, you probably know. And I get the topics ahead of time, which we always do. And one of them is, Trump is trying to whitewash the Smithsonian, and stuff like that made me go like, ooh, oh God, I don't love that. How am I going to tackle this? I don't really know exactly what's going on. I've been out of the country for a month. Let me reach out to the comms team at the administration and just get to the bottom of what in particular is really chapping your ass.
So instead of doing actual research on what this exactly is, she reached out to the propagandist administration, who told a grand total of 35,000 lies in their first term. That's who she thought she should reach out to actually learn about this situation. Go ahead, Jill. Go ahead, MAGA lesbian.
Seriously, what? Hopefully we're not going to do that. I get a friggin' PDF that's got to be 50 pages. In it, the first thing that happens literally the first thing they have when you walk in the door of the American, the History Museum under the Smithsonian umbrella, because there are many different museums, obviously, under the Smithsonian umbrella. The first thing you see is a gay flag, and it's not during Pride Month, and it's the only thing there. So what I personally don't like about it is it's look at the progress the gays have made, which makes me feel like I'm not a part of our culture and our community, and it kind of pisses everybody else off and makes them resent the gays, just like we get an entire month, but veterans get a day. That's uncomfortable and unnecessary and unfortunate. So I'm well...
This is a self-hating gay person. Yes, people that were discriminated against are going to get a longer amount of time for pride and appreciation. Veterans were not enslaved like black people. They were not denied rights like gay people. So naturally, they're not going to need the amount of quote-unquote pride or uplifting that those discriminated groups receive currently. This is Dave Rubin 2.0. Dave Rubin in high heels.
All right, okay, it continues. Then there's a whole thing, I'm gonna friggin' open it, it's so long. There's a whole thing about changing the game and is gender testing fair? But they go on to talk about how people used to make you drop your drawers and show your genitals, and I'm thinking, when the hell was this? Because right now it's a cheek swab. But they tie it to some sort of form of sexual assault. And then it's well, and this is a very complex issue. It's not a complex issue. It's a cheek swab to get an XX result or an XY result, which means biological male or biological female. And it goes on to talk about how unfair it is and what do you really think? And of course, it's pushing you towards this is like awful, grotesque, unfair, bigoted. It goes on in so many ways. There's one that I posted about with regard to Hispanic emigration to the States. Now, this one in particular I found bananas. So we're here in Miami. I lived in Miami for 3 years before moving to Wyoming. I know a lot of Cubans. You're married to one. I've heard a lot about Castro. So this is how they frame Cubans emigrating from Cuba. My old woman eyes, forgive me. All right, so here we go. It's important that we read this, guys.
You can tell she hasn't done any research on this since she has to read it. You're a news anchor. You should have this shit memorized before you host the show. Well, whatever, Jillian.
Civil wars, oppressive governments, and natural disasters pushed millions of people to migrate from Latin America and the Caribbean to the United States. Throughout the 1900s, the United States supported foreign governments that favored U.S. business and fought communism. And we all know the U.S. has practiced interventionist foreign policy. We know this, and no one loves it, okay? No one's trying to whitewash that. It then goes on to say, sometimes, oh, I just blew it. Actually, here we go, sorry guys. Sometimes, I did it again. I'm gonna make you read this in about 3 seconds, Amy.
Want
But
me to?
the long story is it goes on to say,
Whereabouts?
oh my God, there's so much of it, and
There we go. Okay, tell me where to resume.
Okay, U.S., okay, there, read it.
Sometimes U.S. foreign policy
20-year-old
contributed
eyes.
to the violence and corruption driving people to migrate. 30 now, actually. The United States backed numerous dictators, including Cuba's Fulgencio Batista and the Dominican Republic's Rafael Trujillo. Cuban, Dominican, and many other Latino communities still feel the effects of the war and revolution. Their stories reveal the human cost of immigration and the contradictions of U.S. foreign policy.
Okay,
That's right.
So okay,
No?
there's no mention of Castro whatsoever.
Oh, they don't mention Castro's name.
Right,
But
so-
they do mention the revolution, which is what spurred
But
Cuban
they blame
immigration.
it only on our interventionist foreign policy and our desire to fight communism.
I mean, so look,
Anna.
But I mean, they talk about the oppressive government, right? Like at the very
of the
first sentence.
dictator that we backed, not that.
No, I think they're talking about Castro when they talk about.
Anna has to break it down to her in simple words. Jillian can barely read the actual text by the monument, and she's getting upset when she can barely keep track of one paragraph. She's squinting her eyes because she needs her reading glasses. That's how bad it is. And then here's Anna. She has to break down the simple English of what the actual paragraph means. They reference an oppressive government. That is Castro. That's the Cuban government that they're referencing.
You know.
His name's not even in there.
No, I know. They don't mention his name, and maybe they should, because that is what, like the Cuban Revolution,
Anna,
the communist
The United States backed numerous dictators, including, we didn't back Castro. So, including...
We backed Batista, who was a dictator. Yeah.
But there's no mention of Castro.
No, that's fair.
Is
That's
what
fair.
begot the mass
That sentence is written specifically in such a way that the blame is placed on the United States.
Solely on the United States, which is my argument, is that, okay, no problem, but then you gotta kind of mention 1959 when Castro came into power and started killing everyone and jailing everyone and Cubans fled, and they're thriving here in America right now, and most of them are conservative. Then you've got literally an exhibit that's all about white cops killing black guys, and there's nothing about how we fought back to stop, except we captured it with our cell phones, and thank God we did, because we put these cops on blast. And the reality is, we all know police brutality has been a thing, but there's nothing about fighting to stop it. There's nothing about evolving.
There's also nothing about the fact that if you look at the trends, the long-term trends in policing, you know, there was a focus on specific cases of police brutality, which were horrendous and terrible. But if you look at the overall trends, officer-involved shootings had consistently gone down every single year since
It's worse
the 1970s.
than ever, and it goes on to say that people of color are currently living under a regime of oppression and aggressiveness and prejudice. And it's like, are we ever going to show something good about our country? Then it goes on to talk about Benjamin Franklin. And it's all about electricity, right? So it's like Dr. Electric Ben or whatever the hell it was. And it says, by the way, he was a slave owner. And by the way, we think that the slaves actually played a huge role in inventing electricity, and he never freed his slaves. He did free his slaves. He became a huge abolitionist who completely repented and did a 180. And there's no evidence, whether you like this or not, to suggest that the slaves were involved in his experiments. And the thing that bothers me is it's like, you can just let the white guy have it, guys.
Yes.
He did invent electricity. You can say he was a slaver, but then you should also point out that he did a 180 and he realized how disgusting it was, and he wrote articles about it, and he was an active activist.
He's fine.
And he did free his slaves. That is a lie.
Just give the full picture as opposed to a slice that's intentionally
I got two
chosen
more
to,
that I want to do.
Yeah, Ben Franklin, she's talking about how he was this anti-slavery person. Meanwhile, he only freed his slaves in his will. That's when he freed his slaves. He freed his slaves after he didn't need them. So this is your favorite white supremacist talking points. This is David Duke 2.0 right here. It's crazy.
Because these are, go ahead.
Before you get to that, I just want to quickly comment on the very first example you gave about Latin American immigration or people from Latin America. So I feel like that summary was intentionally vague because it wasn't just about Cuba. And when you think about, the U.S. did like a coup.
It is just about
like
Cuba.
in Guatemala.
That clip is, no.
Oh, that was just about Cuba.
That is just about Cuba.
Oh, okay, then that's different.
And Cuba and the Dominican. Because there are other parts, obviously, all about other parts of South America.
Got it.
That part is just about Cuba.
Okay, then you should mention Castro, because Castro and the Communist Revolution is what spurred a huge refugee crisis of Cubans coming to the United States. That's just the fact of the matter.
Solely laid at our feet.
You know what this
played? Go ahead.
No, I'm with you 100%. When I watched them push back against you at CNN, I wanted to throw something.
Well, we're gonna so hold on. So okay, a couple more. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. Two more. There's a whole 55-minute video in African Heritage Museum. I might be blowing that, but that's what it's meant to showcase, and understandably so, and rightfully so. But in this 55-minute video, there's a montage where they compared George Floyd and Che Guevara to Jesus.
Oh God.
And I like
to Jesus.
I'm not. Can I? Okay. Amy, while we're on looking for this, can you pull up your white culture card too?
I guarantee she doesn't show where that happens. I'm gonna guarantee that she completely misread whatever she's talking about, because Jill Michaels, she has the reading comprehension of a second grader. She's not intelligent.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a good one.
Connor, can you please
pull that
go
up for me,
ahead
please? I'm
and
gonna pull up the exact pieces of art they framed. It's such a long list. I gotta dig it out of this friggin'. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, one segment places images of the death of Jesus Christ, the death of Che Guevara, and the death of George Floyd side by side, and insinuates similarity between these three historical events. Here's the New York Times retelling of the scene. In one kaleidoscope sequence, for instance, stills of police officer Derek Chauvin kneeling on George Floyd's neck are juxtaposed with archival photographs of the executed revolutionary Che Guevara and the Renaissance painter Andrea Mantegna's lamentation over the dead Christ.
That's disgusting.
Is
so
the death of George Floyd horrible? Yes, it's horrible. Is Derek Chauvin in jail? Yes, he's in jail where he deserves to be. I don't care how much fentanyl he had in his body. We all watched the 7-minute video. It was disgusting. Now then, you think when you compare this to the death of Jesus, it doesn't need to be revisited? Hit me with the white culture card, and then I'll tell you what happened at CNN, and then I'm going to pass to Kaizen. Because I want to hear where I'm getting this wrong, okay?
I mean, they did end up revoking it after much complaint, which is good. They took it out of the, I believe it was.
Well, it needed to be revised.
What is it even about?
It essentially says that things like
race.
That things like hard work, discipline. Could we zoom in a little bit? Self-reliance, independent, and autonomy.
Winning at all costs is in there.
These things.
The fact that we're aggressive is in there. That we're inherently an aggressive race.
Oh
and
my
winning
God.
at all. I swear to God.
Wait,
it is in
where was this posted?
I mean,
it's right there.
It was literally on display
this is
at the museum. No, it was revoked. It was
Where
removed.
was this?
In the African, Connor, could you give me the exact? I've lost it in my notes because we were going to do it at the end.
Holy shit! Seriously?
This was,
Yes.
This was quite.
Yes.
Oh my God! This is not okay.
No, what is it? Tell me when I can get to the CNN piece.
And so what is really offensive about this isn't just to white people. It's offensive to people of color to say that, okay, you can't be organized. You can't have self-reliance. You can't do these things because of the color of your skin, because that is exclusively
Also,
a
it's
white
offensive
culture
to people
thing.
who
Like,
aren't white, and they're all of these things. Like, and what's wrong with being ambitious?
sir, it was the National Museum
comes
of
down.
Yeah, because one culture has one aspect doesn't mean the other cultures cannot have those same aspects. Eastern culture as a whole is more collective than the United States. They have a collectivist culture. Indians have that culture. That's an aspect of their culture. But Africans also have that same aspect. Me saying that Indians have that collectivist aspect does not mean that other cultures do not have that aspect. Again, this is like, these guys are brain dead. What else do I have to say?
To though that we're aggressive and that we need to win at all costs. Like, again, like,
But isn't it kind of racist to say that only white people are
That's
like
what I
the
just-
go-getters?
That's what I mean.
It's not, that's not what is stated when you're showcasing this. When you're emphasizing on aspects of a culture, that does not mean that other cultures are devoid of those same aspects. Because I'm pretty sure plenty of people would say that competition is a massive aspect in Asian culture, emphasized by the fact that they are the highest, they typically have the highest SAT scores in the US out of any race. Nobody would say that Asian people do not emphasize that competitive aspect in their culture. Most people would say that communication is a value for all cultures. So again, these guys are just, they've lost their mind. They want to be the white victim. And let me go back to the Smithsonian paragraph just so we can see how much of an idiot that she is. So we can see in the first paragraph that for seeking democracy and safety, civil wars, oppressive governments, and natural disasters push millions of people to migrate from Latin America and the Caribbean to the United States. So this does not specify that the U.S. is responsible for pushing these guys to migrate. It literally says civil wars, oppressive governments, and natural disasters, which is very true for Haiti, which is very true for Cuba. Like, all these countries that have gone through the ringer, a lot of these governments and hurricanes have pushed them to come to the U.S. And then it says throughout the 1900s, the U.S. has supported foreign governments that favored the U.S. business. And this is adding context for why that happened. There's nothing wrong with this. And you shouldn't need to name every single person. So, like, she's looking for Fidel Castro as if this is only talking about Cuba. It talks about the Dominican Republic. It talks about other countries. You don't need to literally spell out Fidel Castro when you've already pointed out that oppressive governments have pushed people to migrate from Latin America to the U.S. Anyway, that's it, man. Jill Michaels, the MAGA lesbian, complete clown, complete idiot, is a workout influencer turned politician, or political commentator, not politician. Hopefully she does not go into politics. But the reality is she's trying to do cleanup because she got clowned on the CNN panel. Nobody, even Scott Jennings, the MAGA maniac, took her side. He sat there quiet because he knew she was making a fool out of herself. But she's got to continue this MAGA push because Peter Thiel demands that she says her talking points. PBD demands that they say the conservative talking points. There's no soul in here. She's a self-hating gay person. It's a MAGA supporter. and then on top of that, she's racist. I really feel bad for her black daughter because this is the mom that she's stuck with. So anyway, that's it. Adios.